I'm Lisa Taylor, president of Challenge Factory. Hidden Talent is a Challenge Factory podcast. Challenge Factory is grateful for the support of Veterans Affairs Canada through the Veteran and Family Wellbeing Fund.
Challenge Factory believes you should meet the changing world of work head on and take control of your future. Is your business prepared for the future of work? Well, this podcast series, along with the Challenge Factory Masterclass in Hiring and our Canadian Guide to Hiring Veterans, will help you do just that. Enjoy the show.
It takes too much time. It's too risky. It's too hard to find the right people to fill the right roles. If you're a small or medium-sized business owner, this likely sounds and feels familiar, especially when it comes to hiring for your team. You know people are the heart of your business, and the stats back that up. Did you know 90% of the Canadian private sector workforce works for a small or medium-sized business? Despite this fact, most small business owners find the act of hiring a challenge and struggle to attract and retain the right talent. But imagine now a hidden talent pool of approximately 10,000 skilled, experienced, and educated individuals entering the workforce annually. That's how many men and women transition out of military service and into civilian employment each year. Now, imagine if there was a way for you to match that talent pool with the needs of your organization or business. This podcast seeks to answer those questions and more. Over the course of this show, we'll dive into the questions like, where is the hidden talent in Canada's veteran communities? What skills do they have? How can employers gain access to more resources to hire and train Canadian veterans? Throughout this show, you'll hear voices of Canadian small business owners. You'll hear from Canadian veterans and personal experience with leaving the military and finding fulfilling employment. And then Lisa Taylor, president of Challenge Factory, will give us context, helping us to identify the nuanced experiences faced by both employers and veterans, especially around things like hiring practices, interviewing, employee engagement, and orientations. So let's set the stage, because we can't solve a problem if we can't see it. How can we uncover what's hiding in plain sight? Sarah Dunkley is the head of two companies, including Santa's Village based in Bracebridge, Ontario. Every summer, the park hires dozens of seasonal workers. Sarah also happens to be married to a Canadian reservist.
I think, some of the talent we're looking for is very specialized, so it is kind of hard to find some of these people that we need. It sometimes feels like a needle in a haystack in terms of some of the skills that we're looking for.
Lisa Taylor of Challenge Factory.
It's really likely that you know veterans and you don't even realize that they're within your midst. And that's because they've gotten used to having their civilian persona, and that's what they lead with. So it really just takes asking a couple of questions, maybe even like, do you know anybody that's ever served in the Canadian Armed Forces, before you all of a sudden realize your neighbor, your cousin's husband, the teacher at school has a nephew, that all around you, there are people that actually are serving.
Janine Harris is an Ontario-based entrepreneur. She runs a media company specializing in branding and video for other businesses.
I feel like I just don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about what vets are in the market, where to find them, what kind of jobs they're looking for.
Clearly, part of the problem is simply knowing there's a giant talent pool out there. Employers don't know there are veterans ready for work, never mind where to find them.
I don't know who they are. I don't know what they do. I don't know what their skills are. I don't know where to find them.
Good question. Where do you find skilled veterans for your team? And on the flip side, how do they find you?
When Challenge Factory first started its work in the veteran community, knowing that we wanted to be a part of the ecosystem of matching employers and veterans and helping with this talent pool, we spent a year just listening. just showing up where veterans were hanging out so that we could hear them and hear them talking to each other, have a chance to get to know them.
But if your professional network doesn't feel big enough, then the next likely action is to search or post on a job board, which aren't always the most efficient ways to connect with potential hires, especially if you're a time-strapped business owner like Sarah.
If I want to reach a candidate who has an experience or who's a chartered accountant, I know where to post that job, right? I think there's a lot of businesses out there that want to reach people with military experience, but we don't know how to reach them. And I think that is probably the biggest barrier. We don't know how to find them.
And there's another dynamic at play here. Sure, it's one thing to not know where to find qualified veteran candidates, but for the small business owner, there's this whole element of handling the applications once they start rolling in and identifying from that heap the best person for the job.
What Sarah's talking about is really what happens when you post a job. So you post a job, you know exactly what you're looking for, and then you get this barrage of resumes and applications. And most of them don't fit what you've asked for. Some of them have really poorly spelled applications. Some of them say that they're, really pleased to be applying for a job that's not the job that you've actually posted. So you just end up with this entire package of material, and it's really hard to sort through, even just to get to what are the relevant applications that are worthy of taking a look at. And then from that subset, be able to get to, and these are actually people that I think I would be interested in. That whole process for a small business owner is incredibly time consuming, and it's frustrating. So when you're looking for talent, it comes back to, instead of tossing it open so that it's, thousands of applicants that are coming back, what I always like to reinforce with small business owners is you don't need 1,000 applicants. You have one position. You need to find the person that's going to help you do the best job.
Chris Stoyles retired from the Canadian military after 10 years of service. Lisa Taylor at Challenge Factory wants you to listen to how Chris introduces himself.
In 2006, I joined the Canadian Special Operations Regiment and served with them until 2010. Multiple deployments to Afghanistan in 07-09. And then I joined the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada as a reserve unit for 4 years as I transitioned out of the military.
Within a fairly short period of time of them transitioning out of the military, they start to learn that talking about their military service or their military background is something that's great to do when they're back with their colleagues and friends, but may not necessarily help them when they're talking to prospective employers.
So how does a transitioning veteran like Chris highlight his exceptional skills without relying heavily on his military experience? How can a veteran transition from hidden talent to shortlisted talent? In the next episode, we'll hear more from Chris about his experience with job interviews and HR departments, and his fears of underemployment or of ending up with a job that didn't make him happy. Later in the series, we'll hear from Trevor Vautour, a retired Master Corporal. Trevor also appears in the masterclass that accompanies this podcast. The link to enroll for that class is in the show notes. He'll share with us more about how he was able to articulate his skills to match the job market and with what employers were looking for. All of this leads us to our next set of questions. How can an employer know how to leverage a veteran's skills if they don't understand the work they did while they were serving? And on the flip side, how can a veteran find a job they love and excel at if they don't have a good grasp of the expectations and environment in the civilian workforce? Further to that, how can they start to understand what jobs are available to them? Introductions and identities start to play a role in uncovering hidden talent, because it's important to know who you're talking to and how to draw out the best candidate you're interviewing.
It's just really important to understand that where they're coming from was a very structured, very organized, very leadership-heavy organization.
Now that you've listened to our show and have a sense of the depth of the challenges and the potential solutions for hidden talent, we invite you to enroll in the masterclass for employer-tested ways to tap into the hidden talent pool of Canada's veterans. Find out more and sign up by visiting centerforcareerinnovation.ca at the link in the show notes. Reach out to the team at Challenge Factory with your thoughts, ideas, and feedback, especially if you're a small business or military veteran. This podcast is produced by Story Studio Network.